building a better Bay Area for a safe and secure future. This is ABC 7 News.
Good afternoon, I'm Kristen Z. Welcome to our daily program called Getting Answers. We're asking experts your question every day at 3 o'clock to get answers for you in real time. For the past week, the question has been, who will be Democrat Joe Biden's running mate? Well, now we know. It's the Bay Area's own Kamala Harris, born in Oakland, raised in the East Bay, served as DA of San Francisco and California's Attorney General before being elected U.S. Senator in 2017. She was Biden's rival running for the Democratic nomination, and now she is his pick for vice president. Senator Harris made her first comment in a tweet an hour ago saying Joe Biden can unify the American people because he's spent his life fighting for us. And as president, he'll build an America that lives up to our ideals. I'm honored to join him as our party's nominee for vice president and do what it takes to make him our commander-in-chief. Joining us today to talk the historic pick are Harini Krishnan, State Director of South Asians for Biden, and Cooper Tebow, Silicon Valley-based Democratic political strategist. Cooper and Harini, thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
So, Harini, I want to start with your reaction to Kamala Harris being named VP. You were an original member of the Kamala supporters group known as the K-Hive. This was captured. I'm just going to show your reaction. This was captured by your daughter when she told you the big news.
What are you up to?
Just packing for a band.
Kamala Harris is the VP nom.
Oh my God!
They just announced it less than a minute ago. Woo! We did it! This is nuts!
I could actually just watch that all day, Harini, because that was so real, that was so raw, that was so emotional. I got to ask you, why was Kamala's selection so incredibly meaningful and emotional for you?
I think for me, you know, as a woman of color, as an Indian American woman, as a South Asian woman, I felt seen and I felt heard. You know, her selection as vice president is historic because there are women around the country that finally feel like they have a seat at the table. And, you know, she represents all of us. She represents a confluence of identities and backgrounds. And this is truly a historic day. I mean, here's somebody who looks like me and my daughters, who is, you know, selected as the vice presidential candidate for the United States. That is truly historic, and that's why I cried so badly.
I know, you know, this was a long time coming for you because you had working for her when she had launched her presidential run. I got to ask you, in recent days, you've been saying that she would help the ticket the most and help Biden position him the best for November. Why do you think that? What are the reasons?
You know, I think especially in this moment in our nation's history, there is this collective awakening of an awareness of the deep-rooted systemic racism, you know, that is in our country, and what the pain that has caused to Black lives around this country. So, you know, her selection is truly addressing that pain. And I think her selection is also important because, you know, it affirms Vice President Biden, his commitment to diversity and inclusion. So when he is saying that I will champion diversity and I will champion, you know, gender equity, you know, he is walking the talk. That's a statement of values by choosing a woman of color, choosing a Black woman, a South Asian woman to be his, you know, his running mate. And that speaks volumes of his commitment to, you know, what he says when he means diversity and inclusion.
All right, Cooper, do you agree that Kamala brings the most to the table in terms of helping Biden in November, compared especially to the other finalists?
I think she's a fantastic pick. And I think even more than just being a fantastic pick in herself and her many talents, I think it's undebatable that she was one of the most talented people on the debate stage of the 25 candidates running for president. What does it say about the Democratic Party, positively, that we have picked to be the running mate of a man who grew up lower middle class in Scranton, Pennsylvania, to be his running mate, the daughter of Indian and Jamaican immigrants, two candidates, first ticket in history, where neither have been Ivy League alumni. This is the working class party that represents the people in the streets protesting, standing for righteous justice right now. And I could not be more excited about this pick and more excited about their first appearance together in Wilmington, Delaware tomorrow.
You're right. The two of them combined, Biden and Kamala, seem to be a far cry from one thing that the right sometimes points out about the liberal elites. You're right, they have a different background. I do ask you, though, in the final days, people also talked a lot about Susan Rice, whom had worked in the Obama administration, and a lot of people thought was most simpatico, if you will, with Joe Biden, and also Karen Bass, whom the progressives, some of them had championed. What is your thought about why, in the end, Kamala might have beat out those two and other finalists?
I think that Susan Rice, while a fantastic public servant, I think you have to be hardwired in your soul to run for president, put yourself or vice president, and put yourself up to that level of public scrutiny. And the only person in the finalists for VP that we were aware of who had that was Kamala. I think it's an experience you have to have going through that level of both love and hate from every side of the political spectrum. I think it would have been very hard for someone to adjust to that in this level of political vitriol we're seeing on both sides of the aisle. I know that many progressives really, really love Karen Bass, myself included, and really wanted to see this. To them, I say, I don't think Karen Bass is going anywhere. I look forward to seeing Karen Bass serve in the administration or in another role. Karen Bass herself has said Senator Harris is a fantastic pick. And I would also say that Kamala herself has done quite a good job of fighting for progressive issues. She's worked with Bernie Sanders on Medicare for All. She is opposite of Joe Biden. She has come out against fracking while Vice President Biden is very heavily for it. And she has done a fantastic job. One of the first Democratic senators, if not the first, to tackle the immigration issue on the border and fight against Trump. So those who are worried that this will lead to a less progressive future, I'd say look at this as a bridge to a more progressive future.
All right. And I do want to point out that in Joe Biden's email to supporters, he mentioned, I need someone working alongside me who is smart, tough, and ready to lead. Kamala is that person. Harini, I know we're not going to get any argument from you in terms of Kamala's preparedness for office, and not just as VP, but possibly as the torchbearer, the standard bearer for the party in 4 years, and as the presidential nominee, possibly if they do win in November. But I want to ask you, in terms of the criticism that you've heard about Kamala, for example, over her response in the debate, that first debate, when she mentioned to Joe Biden, I was that girl, talking about busing and being at a school in Berkeley, and kind of, they had that moment, and there were people who said she's not remorseful enough, or that she's not going to be deferential enough. Do you feel like there is a sexist wedge being driven in there, or is there a proper lens to look at that through?
Absolutely. Listen, if, there were so many presidential candidates who made statements during the debate. It was a debate, right? And she's a fierce competitor, just like anyone else. And I think there is a double standard, right? Many of the presidential candidates who are now actively working to help elect Vice President Biden made statements, but none of that was pointed out. But only what she said was, used as an example, as a case against her. But the reality is, there is definitely, sexism. And, sexism is not something that is specific to one party. And I think that, we need somebody tough. We have the most corrupt president in our history. We need somebody tough. We need somebody who's going to hold him accountable. And she was in a debate, and she is a competitor. And we would not hold male candidates to that same exact standard that we hold Kamala. So I think I am over the moon. I think in Kamala, she's really going to help him win in November, because she has the fundraising networks. She had the second highest number of endorsements, endorsements from Congressional Black Caucus, Congressional Latino Caucus. She brings energy to the base of the Democratic Party, Black women. She's been vetted on the national stage. She is progressive. I mean, ranked by sites that rank how progressive legislators are. She ranks high, in the top 5. So she is that perfect complement to Vice President Biden.
All right, we're going to take a short break on the air. Of course, our conversation continues on live streams. When we come back, we want to take a look at polls and what the Biden-Harris ticket needs to do in the days and weeks ahead. Be right back. All right, and we are in break. We are with Harini Krishnan, State Director of South Asians for Biden, and Cooper Thibault, who is a Democratic political strategist, works a lot with our candidates here in the Silicon Valley, raising money. And you know what? I'm just going to quickly check in with my producer. Hey, Eric, when we come back, could we show that clip again, just because it's so good?
I can't wait to watch that.
Can we show that again? Yeah.
What are you up to?
Just packing for a band.
Kamala Harris is the VP nom. Oh my God! They just announced it less than a minute ago. Woo! We did it! This is nuts!
Okay, you wear your emotions on your sleeves, that is for sure. Harini, I want to ask you, I know you've interacted with Senator Harris, now the nominee for vice president for the Democratic ticket, many a times. What strikes you about her? And maybe you can tell us a story that shows us why you feel like she's got the humanity. I think a lot of people look at her and say, hey, the leadership is there. She's got that background. Actually, you know what? I'm not going to even have you get into it because we only have 40 seconds. And I feel like this is a 1-minute story, 2-minute story coming, which we'll save on air. Hey, Cooper, have you seen any polls after this has been announced or even in the days before that would indicate why Kamala makes sense?
I haven't seen any recent polls on the VP. I have seen polls out of Wisconsin and Pennsylvania just this morning before the announcement that had VP Biden and Trump narrowing the race. We went from 12 points in Wisconsin a couple weeks ago to 6 points yesterday to 5 points today in varying polls. And I would bet you we see those polls widen again now that we have such an exciting VP on the ticket.
Ah, okay. We're coming back on air. Hang on. And we are back on air with Harini Krishnan, State Director of South Asians for Biden, who lives in San Mateo County, and Cooper Thibault, Silicon Valley-based Democratic political strategist. We are talking about the selection of Kamala Harris as Biden's VP. And I want to ask you, Cooper, let me start with you. What do you expect to see in the polls in terms of a bump for Biden?
A few days ago, we had Biden at 6 points lead in Wisconsin. This morning we had 5. The polls are clearly narrowing between the two candidates, as the Biden campaign predicted they would, to their great credit. I suspect now that we have such an exciting VP nominee on the ticket, we will see those begin to widen. And if I were Mike Pence, I would be very worried that Trump starts looking for an equally exciting VP.
Oh. Do you have a few names in particular that you're thinking of? I mean, Nikki Haley used to be brought up as somebody who was in contention. Of course, lately, Kristi Noem's, the governor, who was promising him Mount Rushmore in the form of a little miniature replica. But who's in the mix?
Well, in recent days, we've seen the Republicans be very good at copying Democratic policy with Trump's executive orders. I would not be surprised if they try to go for an equally young, energetic, exciting pick and try to go for Nikki Haley. Yes, woman, and go for Nikki Haley. However, I don't think anybody on the right compares to the pick that Joe Biden has made today.
Okay. Harini, I want to ask you, a lot of people are familiar with Kamala Harris's work, right, as a prosecutor and certainly as a tough senator. We saw her in those hearings for Brett Kavanaugh. But that is, skills, leadership. What about the personal side? Can you tell us a personal story that you think speaks to her humanity to you?
I actually want to share a story of 17-year-old organizer who was part of Kamala Harris for San Mateo County. So I drove down with these two amazing young organizers to the Long Beach California Democratic Party convention. And there was supposed to be a rally for her. And then she surprised the organizers by coming backstage and meeting with some of them. And one of the young organizers that I drove down with is a young woman by the name of Amanda. And she's of, Syrian background. And so when Kamala met her, Amanda told her the story about how her mother used to be criticized for her accent, when she first tried to apply for jobs. And Kamala took 10 minutes with Amanda. She had to be in different places. She's a very busy woman, but she took 10 minutes out of her time to talk to Amanda and to tell her one of my favorite quotes of Kamala is, "Don't ask permission to lead, you just lead." And that's what she told Amanda. She said, "Hey, listen, I know my mother was criticized when she first came to this country. She was criticized for her accent, but she was one of the toughest, women. Shyamala Aunty was one of the toughest, women you would ever meet. She was a breast cancer researcher. She was 5 foot tall, but you would think she's 7 foot tall." And this is a favorite campaign story that she would share. But the fact that she took 10 minutes with a young woman and to tell her, not to let detractors detract her from her path was something that I will always, always remember. And I remember that was a very special moment. I was standing right there when she talked to Amanda. And that was a side to what an incredible, inspiring role model she is. And that's something that I'll remember forever.
Harini, I know you'll be working hard in the weeks ahead to raise money for the campaign. And Cooper, that is, of course, your specialty as well. I want to ask you what you think the fundraising implications are with Kamala being on the ticket.
I guarantee you that today will be the largest online, I suppose everything is online now, but the largest small dollar day of this presidential campaign. Period. And I would guess that here at home in Silicon Valley, we have some supporters that have been holding their powder for the VP pick that will now be getting very involved. Last month, the Biden campaign raised a record $141 million. I would guess that this month they get very close to $200 million, if not clear it.
All right. How much time do we have on air? All right, I think that's all the time we have, but I know I'll be continuing this conversation with you in the days, weeks, and months ahead leading up to the election. So Harini Krishnan, State Director of South Asians for Biden, and Cooper Thibault, who is a Silicon Valley-based Democratic political strategist, thank you both for joining us. And Harini, I'm going to let you go back to getting all your buttons and campaign materials and T-shirts ready. I know you wanted to show them off, so I'm going to give you 2 seconds here to show us what you got there.
I have my K-High for Joe Biden, and then I have my Kamala Biden, and then I have my signs. And now I'm going to go order more signs. So I'll be ready.
All right, you're ready. All right, don't spend all your time jumping for joy and crying, but although, please go ahead, take a little moment to do that because I know you've waited for it for a long time. Thank you both, Cooper and Harini. We'll be right back.
Thank you.
All right, we'll take a short break. When we come back, we'll share with you Willie Brown, who just spoke moments ago about Harris being named Biden's running mate, and we'll talk about masks. Yep, masks. Which ones are best? Coming up. All right, we are in break. Hello, Facebook friends. Thank you for joining us. Wow, a huge day politically. So those of you who enjoy political talk, if you had your money on one candidate, one of the finalists, over Kamala Harris, you would have lost money. And if you bet on Harris, who had been the leading contender and front runner, then you win. But regardless of whether you are supporting the Democratic ticket or the Republican ticket, certainly this adds a new level of intrigue. And as you heard from Cooper Thibault, this could lead to perhaps, we'll see how the Trump administration reacts and whether they may decide they need someone more energizing on the ticket. Who knows? All right, we've got our next guest lined up. who is a familiar guest on the show, Jeremy Howard, all masked up and ready to go. How's it going?
Hey there.
Hey, good to see you.
You too.
I mean, even if it's just your eyes and forehead, but you know, I'm excited to dive into with our Facebook friends and on air, our live viewers, the masks ranked best to worst, and I suppose you have several different varieties to show us, right?
Absolutely.
Excellent. All right, let me check in with my producer real quick as you hang on. Eric, how much time will we have coming back? Okay, and can we start real quick with the Willie Brown reacts?
Is there engineer out
Where?
there? Cameras moving.
There are 2 engineers. Okay, thank you. Let's do that then. We're coming back on air. 5 seconds. We are back. A Duke University physics professor says his study shows bandanas and neck gaiters may actually put out more droplets than no mask at all. So with a lot of kids going back to school, you know, even though not in person at the time, I'm sure parents out there are thinking about, gosh, what are the best masks, right? We want to know more about that in the rankings of masks when it comes to effectiveness. So we bring in our very own mask expert and data scientist from USF, Jeremy Howard. Jeremy, good to see you again, only if it's half
Hello
your face.
there.
Hi.
Hello.
Good. I want to start by asking you if you agree with that Duke professor about neck gaiters and bandanas pretty much being no bueno.
Yeah, so this is the thing. This is the neck gaiter, and there's a number of problems with it. The first is that it, as you can see, it can just fall down really easily. And there's things you can do to help this. This one's actually quite cool. You can buy them from Amazon that have little holes on the ears, and they stop it from falling down. Then you've got a second problem, which is that there's a big gap around the nose. So for 2 cents, you can buy one of these neck clips to make that fixed up. But you still have the problem that the actual material that these things are made of is very stretchy and kind of see-through.
Yeah.
So when I hold it up, so then, you know, you need to deal with that. And actually, this one I've got here has a filter pocket where you can insert like a piece of paper towel or something like that to make it work better. So neck gaiters are a no-no unless you're using the right type with a filter pocket and have it set up correctly, at which point it's not a bad option.
All right. I typically wear these, you know, the standard surgical mask. I do have the wire here, which I press against my nose. I check for coverage. Does it seem like it's okay? Fairly
Let's talk about
effective?
surgical masks. So I'm not actually getting a picture through of you right now, so I'll just imagine what you're showing me. But this is a similar thing to a surgical mask. It's kind of a rectangular cloth mask in this case. Now, something that helps a lot with surgical masks or these kind of cloth masks is to fold it like so, and then tie a knot here, fold it again, tie a knot here. And here's one I've already done that for. And then you just turn it inside out, right? And then you put the little holes back through so that they're inside. And this now actually has a really great fit. And then the other thing is you can buy one of these for a few cents.
What is that?
It's called an ear saver. And you just pop one end on here, like so, and the other end on the other side, like so.
Oh, that's
And what
an
this does is it can turn your basic cloth mask or a surgical mask into a really nicely fitting device. So I can just put this over my head, and then it sits behind my head. And this is now, and the other thing is this cloth mask has a nose piece. And so this is nicely fitting, and there's also a filter pocket in here, again, for a piece of paper towel, or better still, specialist nanofiber. This is called Filty, which we've talked about on the show before.
Yep.
Super breathable, and you put it in your filter pocket, and it works really nicely. That's a great choice for a comfortable mask you can wear all day. You can wash it. That works really well.
So,
you want to see some other options?
yeah, I would love to. Like just kind of from, you know, best to worst, or if you want to start from worst and go up to the best.
Yeah, so we started at worst there, and then so this one, which is a cloth mask with a filter pocket, an ear saver, and a wire at the top, is a good choice. And for the wire at the top, you can use rolled up aluminum foil, garden ties, pipe cleaners, whatever. This one's just got a garden tie, and as you can see, it holds its shape very.
We have about 1 minute left.
Sorry?
We have about 1 minute left, so
okay.
speed
Crafts are making
demonstration.
some great masks. And actually, one of my favorite is called the Nano Mask, which they've actually they provide nano material with the mask, which you clip in with some Velcro, and it kind of holds its shape very nicely. And so these are great, and they've got a nose piece in them. But maybe best of all, Amazon everywhere now has KN95 masks for sale for about $3.
So, I'm sorry, what is the difference between KN95 and N95, which we've always heard was the standard, but are hard to get?
Yeah, KN95 is the standard in China. It's not quite as carefully regulated. A key difference is the KN95s tend to have ear loops rather than round the neck. So I recommend using the ear saver with a KN95, and that gives you a nice, breathable, good quality mask, which will stay nice and comfortable.
All right, we only have about 30 seconds. Real quick question. So it sounds like it's more about the structure and the coverage and the fit and less about the actual material. Is that right?
Yeah, so for materials, the key material to avoid is the stretchy gaiter material. And then again, I think as long as you've got a filter pocket, then you can add your own material. So you do want a decent material and a decent fit, but the material, you can always add your own filter.
Great lessons for all of us as we continue to say, hey, everybody, wear your mask. Jeremy Howard, thank you so much. Appreciate the insight. We'll take a short break on the air and be right back. All right. Hey, Jeremy, you still there? If you got a moment, if you have, we have a couple more minutes on Facebook.
Okay.
Okay, great. So I wanted to ask you, for the folks who truly can't wear a mask, what alternatives would you offer to protect them?
Well, a face shield is an okay-ish alternative. It can help protect you from kind of direct ballistic droplets if somebody sneezes on you or something like that.
But if you wear that, should you wear a bandana underneath or something, like a cloth of some sort as well, or?
Yeah, I was going to say, when you say you can't wear a mask, I kind of, what does that mean exactly? People with asthma, COPD, all kinds of respiratory conditions absolutely can and do wear KN95 masks and certainly can wear cloth masks. So wear the best mask you can in addition to that face shield.
Okay, Robert Hedrick, a frequent Facebook friend here, wants to know, where do you get those ear savers that you were showing?
You can get them from Amazon. Just Google for ear savers. There's like lots of people making them now. The ones that I was using there are silicone, which are kind of nice and soft, which I find good.
Okay, how much do those cost?
I don't know, a couple of dollars. Not enough that I noticed.
Okay.
And you can use them again and again. You get a pack of 3, so enough for the family.
Okay, now if you make them at home, do you think 2-ply is sufficient without a filter, or do you think you need a 3-ply?
Use a filter because, really a piece of paper towel is better than an extra piece of cotton, or better still, you can buy these bits of Filty or even 3M Filtrete material for very little money. The problem is when you add more layers of cloth, it gets really hard to breathe through.
Got it. All right, Jeremy Howard, great to see you. We'll look for this opportunity again soon. Take care.
Bye.
Okay. And we are back. Before we go, former San Francisco Mayor Willie Brown spoke moments ago about Kamala Harris being named Biden's running mate. As you know, they had known each other a long time. He was one of her mentors in politics. Here's what he had to say.
The vice presidency is a great spot if your hopes and desires are simply to be the president. If you really want to make an immediate change in criminal reform, if you want an immediate change in diversity for representation purposes, you're better off if you have power where no one gives you orders. The attorney generalship is what I was talking about in that regard. However, let me tell you, as a black man, I am absolutely blown away that there is on that ticket a black woman for the vice presidency.
And that was Willie Brown, who just days ago suggested that if offered, she politely turn down the VP slot and go for Attorney General. But of course, she has accepted the VP offer to run with Joe Biden. So you can find out much more about Kamala Harris, her history and her roots here in the Bay Area, having been born in Oakland. She went to Berkeley schools. She went to the UC Hastings for law. And of course, she served as the DA of San Francisco and also California's Attorney General and then Senator for California. A lot more coming up on ABC 7 News at 4, 5, and 6. Thanks so much for joining us for Getting Answers. See you back here tomorrow. All right. Thank you, Facebook friends. Glad you tuned in today. Interesting political conversation. More in the days ahead. Take care.